The billionaire hid cameras in her mansion, until she saw what the single dad janitor did the moment the billionaire pressed play. Her breath caught so sharply it hurt. On the screen was not theft, not betrayal, not the quiet decay she had expected to confirm her darkest suspicions. It was a man on his knees in an empty ballroom at 3 a.m, whispering to a child who wasn't there, promising that tomorrow would be better. And in that instant, everything she believed about power, privacy, and people began to fall apart. Stay with this story until the very end, because what she chose to do next would change not only his life, but her own in ways neither of them could have imagined. She owned the mansion the way she owned everything else in her life, deliberately, quietly, and without apology. Isabella Crane was known in business magazines as the youngest self-made billionaire in the region, a woman whose mind cut cleaner than glass and whose decisions never wavered. The mansion sat on a hill outside the city, a fortress of stone and glass designed to keep the world out. What no article ever mentioned was that Isabella trusted no one. Not her executives. Not her advisors. Not even the staff who polished her floors and poured her morning coffee. That distrust had been earned. Years earlier, when she was still clawing her way up, a trusted partner had emptied company accounts and disappeared. Since then, Isabella believed in preparation more than faith. So when she installed cameras throughout her mansion, hidden carefully behind vents, inside decorative fixtures, and within innocuous corners, she told herself it wasn't cruelty. It was caution. She never watched them casually. She reviewed footage only when something went missing, when a door was left unlocked, when her chest tightened with that familiar sense that someone, somewhere, was taking advantage of her. That was how she noticed him. His name on the staff roster was Daniel Reed. Janitor. Night shift. Single parent. 34 years old. No criminal record. No complaints. Invisible in every way that mattered. He worked after midnight, when the mansion was quiet and echoing, when the halls belonged only to shadows and the soft hum of electricity. Isabella noticed him first because he stayed late. Always later than required. Always thorough. He cleaned corners others skipped, wiped fingerprints no one else saw. First, she watched him the way she watched all footage, distantly, analytically. But then she noticed something strange. Every night, after finishing his assigned areas, Daniel went to the small storage room near the east wing. He closed the door. He sat down. Isabella frowned at the screen the first time she saw it. Staff were not permitted to linger. The cameras had no audio in most rooms, but this one did. She leaned closer, irritation prickling under her skin. Daniel spoke softly, his voice tired but gentle. "I know you'd like this place, kiddo," he said, looking at the empty space in front of him. "It's big. Kinda scary big. But if you were here, I'd show you the library first. You'd love it." Isabella froze. He wasn't on a phone. He wasn't recording anything. He was talking to nothing. Or rather, to someone who wasn't there. Night after night, she saw the same ritual. Sometimes he told stories about his shift. Sometimes he apologized for being late. Sometimes he just sat there, silent, eyes closed, breathing as if listening to a reply only he could hear. Isabella told herself it wasn't her concern. Employees had personal lives. Pain. Habits. She exited the feed and went back to her spreadsheets. But that night, for the first time in years, sleep did not come easily. Over the following weeks, she found herself opening the camera feed without any specific reason. She justified it as routine security checks. But she always clicked on the East Wing storage room. She watched Daniel more closely now. She saw the limp he tried to hide. She saw the way he winced when he bent down, the way he stretched his back when he thought no one was watching. She saw him pocket leftover food from staff events, carefully wrapping it in napkins. One night, a storm knocked out power in part of the mansion. Emergency lights flickered on, casting long shadows. Daniel moved methodically, checking breakers, making sure nothing was damaged. When he finished, instead of leaving, he sat on the floor and pulled a small, worn backpack toward him. From it, he took out a child's drawing, creased and faded. A stick figureman holding hands with a smaller stick figure under a crooked sun. "Daddy's working extra so we can get your medicine," he whispered, voice breaking just enough to make Isabella's throat tighten. "I know it's scary. I know." Isabella slammed her laptop shut. She didn't want to know this. Knowing made things complicated. Knowing turned employees into people, and people could hurt you. The cameras were supposed to protect her, not expose her to emotions she had spent years locking away. She told herself she would stop watching. She didn't. The night everything changed started like any other. Isabella was alone in her private office, city lights glittering below. A notification popped up on her security system, unusual activity detected. Her pulse quickened. This was what the cameras were for. She opened the feed, already bracing for anger. The footage showed Daniel in the grand living room. He wasn't stealing. He wasn't breaking anything. He was standing very still, staring at a framed photograph on the wall. It was a picture of Isabella with her parents, taken years ago, before the accidents, before the funerals, before she learned how fast love could disappear. Daniel stepped closer, careful, respectful. He adjusted the frame, straightening it. Then, incredibly, he took off his cap and bowed his head for a brief moment of silence. "I'm sorry," he murmured, barely audible. "Everyone deserves someone to come home to." Isabella's vision blurred. That was the hook she couldn't escape, the moment that pulled her forward whether she wanted to go or not. Because what kind of man apologized to a photograph in a house that wasn't his? And what kind of woman watched a stranger's grief through hidden cameras and did nothing? From that night on, the mansion felt different to Isabella. The walls seemed less solid. The silence less empty. She started noticing things beyond the screens. The way staff avoided her eyes. The way her voice echoed when she spoke. For the first time, she wondered what it felt like to clean someone else's home while your own life was falling apart. Daniel, meanwhile, knew nothing of her attention. He worked harder than ever. Bills were piling up. His daughter, Lily, was 7 years old and fighting an illness that drained more than just money. Her mother had died 2 years earlier, suddenly, leaving Daniel with grief he never had time to process. Nights were easier than days. At night, he could talk to Lily even when she wasn't with him. Imagine her laughter filling the empty spaces. One evening, as Daniel finished mopping the marble hallway, his phone buzzed. The hospital number. His heart raced as he answered. The conversation was short, clinical, devastating. Lily needed a new treatment. Insurance wouldn't cover it. The cost was more than he made in a year. Daniel sat down on the cold floor after the call ended. He didn't cry loudly. He didn't scream. He just pressed his forehead to his knees and whispered, "I don't know how, kiddo. But I'll figure it out."